And welcome to It Figures. Tonight, I'm going to be reviewing Disney's Infinity 2.0 edition Groot. If you watch my previous reviews for Mega Man and Samus, you know how much I love amiibos and how addicted I am to them now. And then of course, when you start collecting amiibos, you just have to move on to the Disney Infinity characters. Essentially, this is Disney's version of the amiibos, or it's Nintendo's version of Disney Infinity, either way. Disney Infinity works just like the amiibo figures does, that if you have a base, you can place like Groot on the base and he will enter the video game. I'm not as familiar on how this process works as I am the amiibos, but I know it's very similar. Packaging wise, I'm not really a big fan of these. They're sort of like the amiibo packaging, but they're a little bulkier and I just don't think they're as attractive. On the top back, it shows how the figure works, and on the bottom you can see all the characters in the line, which there are many. So being that Groot was one of my favorite characters of Guardians of the Galaxy, it only made sense for me to pick him up first. But since I picked him up, I've gotten quite a few of the other ones as well. But I'm going to review him first. As an obvious collector, I never actually went and bought any of the other Guardians of the Galaxy figures because, frankly, I just didn't like their sculpts. And I thought they were overpriced. The Disney Infinity characters have a little bit more of a cartoonish look to them, which is absolutely fine for me. Okay, so let's take a look at Groot here. First, let's take a look at his sculpt. As you can see, he looks just like Groot, even though he is more of a cartoonish version of him. He doesn't have a whole lot of texture to his body. It's rather smooth, but the sculpt is very solid. I like how his legs go from real thin to these very large feet. And if you take a look at his back, it has a surprising amount of detail to it, as does the top of his head. One of my favorite things about this sculpt is the eyes. As you can see, they're black with small pinpoints of white in them. I really like that a lot. And his mouth just isn't a line either. It does have some depth to it. Paint-wise, he is pretty much brown, with a few darker versions of brown. But of course, that's what Groot is, being that he's a tree and all. Also, I think his stance could have used a little bit of something else besides him just standing there, but it's not bad. If you take a look at his base, it's rather strange. I wasn't expecting this, because the amiibo, their chip and everything is built right inside the base. This has sort of a base and then another base on top of it. It's this clear plastic. And I'm assuming that's for, and you can see the chip right there through the hole a little bit, and I'm assuming that's where you put it on to the system to get Groot into the game. But it's rather odd that they have sort of like two bases attached to the one here. One other thing I was going to point out about Groot, he's very rubbery. I mean, you can kind of easily bend him, and he's not as solidly built as some of the other amiibos so far that I've gotten. Alright, so let's bring up the old Figometer and see how Groot stacks up. As for paint, he's a little dull, I'll say, because there isn't a whole lot of variety. I wish they would have maybe put a few more dark spaces or highlights on the figure itself. But other than that, I mean, the paint is solid. There isn't any overspray. And like I said, they did a really great job with the eyes. Sculpting wise, again, it's a little dull. There isn't a whole lot of texture going on Groot. And being that he is made out of a tree and tree bark, you think there would have been a little bit more attention to detail here. Of course, Groot comes with 0 accessories as well. So in all, I would have to give Groot a 4 out of 5. Being that he's my first Disney Infinity figure, I was expecting a little bit more from him out of the package, I guess. But he is a fun character, and I do enjoy the sculpt. Once I get all of the Guardians of the Galaxies together, I think it'll make a really nice collection. So if you like tonight's It Figures, make sure you please subscribe, and I will see you next time.